Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ablis TV. This is Live of a PK with yours truly, Rudy Funwie, and I'm glad to have you here today. It's been a week already. It's another Tuesday that the Lord has made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. Today, we are talking about the role of a preacher's kid in his or her parents' ministry. This is an intriguing topic. This is something that most of us PKs take for granted. Do you have a role in your father's ministry? Do you have a role to play in your father's church as a preacher's kid? Once more, my name is Rudy Funwie, and today I have an amazing person who is going to be with me. First, she stands as a model, and she's someone that I admire a lot as a pastor's child, and she's the daughter to the Bishop Forlu Israel and Mercy Forlu of the River of Life Assemblies International. She is the president and founder of the Believe in You Foundation, and she is the praise and worship leader at the River of Life Assembly International. She is also a brand ambassador of the Gospel Upgrade. She is a music minister par excellence, and she is based in Maryland, USA. And I feel she is the right person for this show because she served with her father, she served with her entire family, basically all her life. And if we should be talking about the role of preachers' kids or pastors' children or preachers' children in the ministries of their parents, what better person to bring to the show than Grace Forlu? I'm excited to have her, and I know Grace is with us. Can we have you, Grace? I know she's here with us, and oh, you look amazing.
Thank you.
You look so
Yeah.
amazing.
So do you. Thank you.
I think, or I usually see this kind of thing you have on your head with those of us here in Africa. Is that way too, or is it just your African heritage that you're keeping with you in Maryland?
I think it's basically just something I like. It's not, and also it happens to be a cultural statement. But I've been tying my hair for many years now.
Mm-hmm.
And I like big hair, so I like big things on my head. So yeah,
I'm so honored. I'm so glad to have you.
thank you.
I believe that this show is going to be memorable because of the person we have sitting here with us. And maybe we get right into it. Today we are talking about the role of a PK in her or his parents' ministry or church.
Mhm.
But before we get into all of that, I spoke about you being the praise and worship leader, being the brand ambassador, being a gospel minister par excellence. I Love You is recently released, and it's still a gem to me. I play like 100 times in a day, and you are the founder and brand ambassador of, no, you're the founder of Believe in You Foundation. How do you do all of this?
One day at a time. It's not easy, but determination, focus, and putting goals. It's not always easy.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I just want to be laid back. Sometimes I don't feel like doing it, but having a great support system too, and wonderful family and friends who continuously say, "Hey, how about this? How about that?" keeps me going. So yeah.
Actually, you do a lot for the Lord right now. And as a preacher's kid, the first question that will come to my mind is you're like a role model to a lot of people because you've been a praise and worship leader in your dad's church for a long time now. And was there ever a time that you were like, this Jesus thing is not for me? Was there ever a time that you resisted the gospel of Jesus Christ
Um.
as a pastor's child?
Oh yeah. As a pastor's child, Yes. Okay. So I like that you said that. So I will narrow it down to 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 that being as a PK. The weight, the expectations versus your reality don't often match. And then
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I did not feel like doing it. I remember one time, one of the things that my parents have taught us is that we can rant to them. Let's rant
Mm.
to them rather than embarrassing ourselves out there. I remember one time I was so fed up with everything. I was like, listen, there is a youth prayer on Monday, there's church prayer on Tuesday, there was a women's group prayer on Wednesday, and I was part of one of the groups. There's Bible studies on Thursday, there's choir on Friday, and I'm the choir leader. And on Saturday, if it's not young adult meeting, it's a women's meeting, it's something I'm involved in. And then on Sunday, there's regular church. One day I got
Mm-hmm.
and I snapped. And I remember I came home and I said, look, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm tired. I'm cutting off some of these days. I have to build myself. I have to build my own life. I have to find out. I have to create time even for the Beliy Foundation. And these were some years back,
Mm-hmm.
and I went off. And I literally did cut off some things. I stopped going to some of those meetings. I was like, you know what? Maybe when I get married, I'll join your women's ministry because I've been there since I was a kid. I cut it out. I was like, I'm not doing it anymore because all these little things here, every evening,
Mm-hmm.
I can't invest into myself because in the day I'm working. And then in the evening, I can't invest into myself. So I cut this one out. I influenced some other things to change. And I was like, if you don't cut this down into half an hour, I'm not coming. And just so I could be myself. And then I remember a particular, actually, several times in the past, I have gotten to a place where I felt like I was serving so much that my personal relationship with God was suffering. And then I began to
Mm-hmm.
weigh, why am I even doing it? And I realized that some of the things I did was because there weren't other people who were stepping up to do them. And
To
that's
do
another
those things, yeah.
thing. Get this initiative to just jump in and do things. And then some of the things I was doing was because I was expected to. The ones I was expected to, I dropped them off. The ones that,
Wow, that's a nice one.
yeah.
Sometimes those expectations, if they weigh you down, you just that leads me to the second question I have for you before we get into the menu for today, the role of a preacher's kid. The second question was, how have you balanced your private life, your privacy, and practically everyone having their eyes on you? How did you balance that?
I would say my parents, first of all, have taught us how to protect our family because we are flawed, but people don't take too kindly to the flaws of a pastoral.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Yes.
judged so harshly over things that are normal. So our parents have taught us to just be careful with how we let things out and things like that. Now, I have, contrary to popular belief, I'm way more playful. I'm way more, I'm way more outspoken than I'd even like to think. So I have, even till today, I struggle with just letting with what I say and what I put out there. Because I told someone, I said, look, if I were looking for fame, I would have been famous a long time ago. All these crazy things I'm doing private, I'll videotape them, put them out. Nowadays, people share funny things and you go viral.
And you, yeah.
Yeah. And so just that training, and then also as I grew up and I had experiences with people, when you experience people who you bring in and then they go out and say things against you,
Crazy things.
they see
Yeah.
they say things that you didn't even intend to do against them, but they won't tell you that, hey, you did this to me, I didn't like it, but they'll take it out and talk bad about you, and you're not even aware of it, and you just find out people are acting strange towards you. All those things also became a factor in how I'm able to just go, okay, I'm shutting down this area, and it's just for me, myself, and my close circle.
It's good you mentioned that you let people in because as pastors' children, as preachers' children, we are expected, you're expected to be welcoming to everybody. You're expected to know everybody. And that makes us to learn to let a lot of people in, and these people at the end of the day, they just come in and they take and take. At some point they try, even like they take until you have nothing to offer. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but I've
Absolutely.
gone through that a lot. Somebody comes into your life and you keep giving, but they seem not to be ever satisfied. But those are one of the things that we go through as PKs. And what I did to be able to balance my privacy and my public life is just that me, the real me is everywhere. Like, you take it or you leave it. Because I became tired of, I'm very outspoken and somewhat, I like making people happy. So I became tired when I feel like I should talk about this, and people don't want me to talk about it because I'm a preacher's kid. And I felt like I kept giving a lot to people, and I had hurt in return. So I just came to that point. I was like, you know what? The Rudy you have in Reverend Akum's house is the same Rudy you have in church. The Rudy you have on the streets is the same Rudy you have anywhere you find. And you like me, you like me, you don't. I'm not supposed to make you like me. Like, and that was it for me. That's how I try creating a balance in my life. Oh, I want to welcome everybody that's on with us. I see you, Nerus. I see all of you. God bless you. We'll get to all of those comments, and we're going to have a swell time. Let's get into the details, the real thing, why we are here. I brought you here today, Grace, because all my life I've known you, because my mother will always talk about your parents
Oh,
and
wow.
will always make reference to the Forlu children, how they serve and all of that. And you're someone who has truly served. I've watched you serve. And that got me thinking, are you doing that because that's what, like, is it what's the PK's role in the father's church, in the mother's church? Do we just have to be on the pulpit all the time? What exactly is our role?
All right. There's a question you also said right before you asked the other questions. Let me answer that. You said, "Do I do that?" And I assumed you were trying to say, "Do I do it because I was taught to do it, or is it from the beginning, initially?" For me personally, I began doing these things. Some of these things I do because, oh, I'm a pastor's child. You're supposed to be
Yeah.
God. You're supposed to, serve. You're this and that. And that was one of the reasons why I got burned out very fast, because I was doing it out of the expectation that I should be doing it, not because I understood exactly why I should do it or whom I'm doing it for. So at some point, I found myself in this position where I felt like I have to be here because I'm an example. I have to do this because I'm an example, not because I love God, not because I want to serve God. And once I got into a place where I understood that, look, I can run around, do everything. Yes, God is pleased. But at the end of the day, my motive is not centered at the gospel of Christ. So it may not
Mm-hmm.
matter. My mindset switched. That's why I mentioned to you earlier that I stopped doing the things that were quote unquote expected versus the things I had
Mm-hmm.
to do that God expects me to do. If you look in Numbers chapter 3, in Numbers 3:10, the priestly covenant that God made with Aaron, he said, appoint Aaron and his sons to serve as priests.
That's
That makes
right.
you understand that because of the role, because of what God called Aaron to do as he was an assistant to Moses, God now
Mm-hmm.
assigned his family and said, look, I'm appointing you guys to do the work in the house. I'm appointing you and your children, you and your household to do a work in the house. Then God now told them, he said, get the Levites and hand all the Levites over to Aaron, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let
Mm-hmm.
me just say this. Most of the time when I've heard people say, oh, you're a Levite, I've heard it being made reference to pastors' kids, and I think that's wrong. Because a Levite, I mean, those from the tribe of Levi, they were not pastors' kids. They were just a bunch of people that God said, "You, I will make you a priest in my
Yeah.
house. I will make you the worshippers in my house." So when I hear people say, "Oh, you're a Levite because you're a pastor's child," I'm like, no. Anybody can be a Levite. If you feel God has assigned you to do this, you're a Levite. All right. So, but going back to Aaron, God assigned Aaron and his family. He called them. That's a leadership position. That's like a pastoral position. So first, I would say, what is the role of your family? What has God called that family for? If the shepherd of the house understands that and appropriately raises the children to understand that, look, this is what God has called me as your father to be, or this is what God has called me as your mother to be, and this is what God has said we should do. Not it is not removing the children's individual calling, because your child
That's very
be a
important.
pastor,
Very
your
important.
child can be called to be a doctor, your child can be called to be an astronaut, but having them that giving them that understanding that, okay, guys, as a family, to some extent, this is what God wants us to represent in the house of God and in God. It's very, very important. And one of the easiest ways, I believe, to get your children to serve God and serve Him from their heart as a pastor is by not raising them with things like, you are the pastor's child, dress like this, behave like this, because people are watching you. That's a no-no. That's something I have learned not to do with my own children, because those, I believe, at least 9 out of 10 pastoral families that we were raised like that. You've probably heard it yourself. You're a
I was
pastor's
raised
child.
like that.
Do this, dress like this, do this. No, you're
Don't
training
sit this
us,
way.
right? That trains us to be eye servants. That trains us to do things because people are watching us, because people expect better from us. But no, if we're trained and we're told, look, dress like this, behave like this, because this is what the Bible expects, this is what God says
Expects of
in His
you.
Word, then we grow up with the mindset of the only reputation we're upholding is that of Christ, and not for people to look at us a certain way. Like, that's why people think we're so perfect and we're dying with our issues and we're not telling it, because people think that, oh, you guys are so well put together. No. When we understand what our role is, which I believe comes from the head of the house, we can easily hold positions within the church. Since we're talking about the church, the local church, we can
Yes.
easily hold positions within that church and do it well. There's a lot of expectations. And in the last conversation I had, I think 2 Wednesdays ago, when we spoke about family and ministry, we realized that God wants every man of the house to have his house in order first before
That's right.
going out there to have the world in order. And that brings a controversy, because what about the PKs who have nothing to do within their father's church? And the ones that, it's not that they don't even have anything to do within that church, but they have rebelled. They have left. They don't want
Yeah.
to have anything to do with God. They don't want to hear about the church. They don't want to hear about it. What is their role? What are they supposed to do? So to answer your question in simple term, I believe that the identification of the role of a PK within their parents' church first starts from the father understanding what God has assigned him to do
Thing to
and
do.
healthily coaching their children through it, not with the advices of do it because you are this, not with the advice of do it because people are expecting you to, but with
To
the
do
advice
this.
of do it because this is what the Lord has called us to do. But they must
Yeah.
remember that we will not always be in that house, because God can send us out to different places. And that should never be a
That
problem.
trust me, is always a problem. It's always a problem. It's always a problem. It takes time. This is just the truth. It takes time for pastoral parents to adjust when their children leave, leave their church. It always takes time. And it takes a parent to put emotions aside, trust me, for that not to cause problems. But going back to what you were saying about knowledge, to what you were saying about letting your children know your call, letting your children know why you are here on earth. To be honest with you, I think I started really helping my father when I got to understand his ministry, because at some point I was really upset. I was like, you build, and when it's about flourishing, they take you out. You go to some other place, and we start the work all over again. And I was like, it's too much. It's too much. But when I finally understood that he's a builder, like he God has endowed him. He's a pastor, and he knows how to bring the ship that is lost. He knows how, no matter the problem, he knows how to bring people together. That's God's gift. That's
Mhm.
God's grace in his life. And
Mhm.
that's why he he, um, he was moved from one place to another. Like you leave a church where you have about 800, close to 1,000 people, and you go to a church where there are just 10, 15. It was hard. I will never forget. It was hard. I remember I had there was cold, there was everything, and sometimes you have to leave in that cold and you go for morning prayers. It was hard. And I was like, why am I doing this? What and is when I started questioning myself, like, why am I was not called. Like, this is the pastor. I'm not the pastor. Then I started God started making me to understand why he keeps moving like that. And I had an honest conversation with my dad, and I discovered that his ministry, that's what makes him move. And since I had that understanding, trust me, I'm just trying to, put more light on what you said. Trust me,
Mhm.
since I had that understanding, it's been easier. For my
Yeah.
siblings and I, it's been easier. Whenever they move him, like whenever he goes somewhere and builds the work, and they move him to another place where he needs to build the work, it's understandable. Like, we just take it and we know that that's his ministry, and we go ahead.
Mhm.
I wanted us to talk about submission as a role for PKs in their parents' ministries. Submission. What's your take on that?
Submission as a role of a PK in their parents' ministries.
Yes.
I mean, it's simple. The Bible says, children, obey your parents in the Lord. That's your parents who are in the Lord. Obey your parents too. Obey all parents. Let me clear that out before somebody thinks I'm saying only obey your born again Christian parents. Obey your parents in the Lord, right? Honor your father and your mother. That's the commandment that has a promise. So for me, I would say let's not. I would advise someone and say don't look at it only from the side of a pastoral family, because generally we should obey our parents. And if your parents
Mm-hmm.
are submissive and are subjected to the leadership of the Spirit of God, as you submit to
Yeah.
them, the Lord will bless you and He will use them to bless you. And even if you have to leave, like you're saying, it's even if it's hard, as long as you honor them, because there's something about honor that will go a long way in the life of a child. I know of a
Mm-hmm.
family where one of the children in the family was much more obedient. Regardless, the child is way more blessed today than all of her siblings. And if you see her siblings' children, the same blessings are not eminent or evident in their lives as it is the one that grew up being submissive and obedient. So I
And
think it's just
obedient.
as simple as knowing that the Lord expects us to be obedient to them, and
Hmm.
we submit
Um,
them.
yeah, I just wanted to say that as PKs, we turn to, like Grace earlier said, submit to our parents in church, and that's a lot of eye service. Meanwhile, we resent them in our hearts.
Mm,
We have a lot of things that we hold and we disregard them in our hearts. To be honest with you, when I learned the role of submission, like understanding that although he's your father, although she's your mom, she's called by God and she is spiritual, or he is spiritual authority over you, and totally submitting to that spiritual authority. That's a role that we shouldn't undermine
mhm,
as preachers' kids.
mhm,
Never undermine, because we get to be too familiar with the vessel that we forget that the vessel actually has authority that has been placed over his life, or actually has is placed by God over you as your earthly parent and as a spiritual authority. So I feel that it's very important. As a rule, PKs have to submit spiritually, in their heart, even in every way. You have to submit to your parents. It does not mean that you should be what's the word? There's a word we use here in Cameroon. It doesn't mean that you should be a fool,
mhm.
but you should totally respect and submit to the grace of God over their life. For example, I love what you do, Grace. I've never seen you, whether in private or in public, you refer to your father as the bishop with so much, like it I admire that a lot in you. So how did you get there?
My parents are parents first before they are pastors. And um, one of the things that I really appreciate about them is them having that open door for conversations. It may
Mm-hmm.
have taken a while for us to get to that place, but we never had an issue coming to talk to them. We never did. But my parents have given us that open door, and we can conversate. Like we can, I mean, if I tell you that I can talk to them about anything. In fact, if I'm angry, I don't think people have ever seen me like mad, right? Because I have that freedom to express all my frustration to the people I know will not
Mm-hmm.
misunderstand me, to the people I know will not throw me away because I express myself in frustration, to the people I know will not go
Mm-hmm.
out and say, well, this child, she's like this, she said this. So having that and them being very fatherly and motherly, I'm telling you. And my mom, I've watched my mom for years. This is no joke. My siblings and I, we cannot tell you one day or one issue that we know our parents have had. It doesn't mean that they don't
Whoa.
have it. My parents have mastered the art of protecting their children by not letting their children see them argue. So for me to even get into a healthy, for me to even be in a relationship where I feel where there's a lot of commotion, I'm like, wait. Why are we handling this like this? Because I have a model that they don't do outside differently and do inside differently. That's why
Differently.
I can
Mm-hmm.
easily call my dad a bishop. I can easily call him a pastor. I can easily call him a reverend because I know
Mm.
who he is outside. He's even better
It's the
inside.
same
Yeah,
inside.
he's even better inside. So I don't relent. I don't waste time to acknowledge that, okay, yeah, my dad really does have what the Bible says to be the qualification of a bishop. And my dad is very slow to anger. That's one thing I'll tell you. My dad is very slow, very, very slow to anger. very slow to anger. My dad does not easily get angry. But the few times I've seen that man get angry, the few times he said things and they happened, me self I fear. I say, whoa, respect.
You were like, ah.
Respect the bishop. I was like, okay. Oh my God. No,
Yes.
but it's been great. Yeah.
You just talked about something being a lot of preachers' kids sometimes turn to be I7s because their parents are I7s as well. Trust me. Can you imagine your dad talking about husband love your wife on the altar? Don't be harsh to your wife. And you sit there, you're looking at him,
Mm,
and he is as harsh as you can define to your mom.
mm.
With
Ah.
that, it will be difficult. It will
Mm,
really be difficult for a PK or for a child to submit to that kind of father. So that there is very important. That there is
the
very important.
way
Um,
the, the way I am personally built, I don't think that's something that I would be quiet about to them. The way I'm built, I'm as much as I am secretive, I'm also very extroverted. I can tell it, I can say it. If my dad were like that, I would tell him. I know that one day will be one day. I would have gotten up one day and told him and said, Dad, you're preaching things you're not doing. And that will
yeah.
call to order. And having this kind of example is a reason why, honestly, I cannot end up with just any type of person because if I feel like you're too harsh, I can't deal with it. I didn't grow up in a too harsh house. So I can't. And just to
Yeah.
point something out, you mentioned like, okay, if he was harsh with, if a pastor is harsh with the wife and he's out there preaching, be nice to your wife. I think it's also a good thing for a lot of past preachers to ask their wives, are you happy in this marriage? Are you happy with me? Do I treat you well? I think it's something a lot of people should, a lot of pastors should make a
Should
normal
do. Yeah.
conversation with their wives because there are many of them that are suffering and it's affecting the children. And then tomorrow they wonder why the
Yeah.
kids leave and don't want to have anything to do with the church.
You just mentioned something. You said you would speak up, and I feel that that's another role for preachers' kids in their parents' ministries. Like, if you see and you feel like, no, the shepherd went out of line here, respectfully, respectfully and prayerfully. He's your dad. Like, respectfully say, my pastor, I don't think that at this point we are going to the right direction. Your family above all other things. So he will listen to you. He knows that you're bringing correction from a place of love, not like other people who will bring correction from a place of rejection or from a place of competition. So I feel that that's a very important role you just mentioned. Let's talk about praying PKs being prayer warriors for their parents. I've hardly seen that anyway. Seeing PKs who have taken upon themselves, like, I'm going to pray for my father's ministry. Even if they do, they are always like, oh God, take me out of here. Father, please take me out of here. So let's talk about the importance or the PKs playing the role of prayer warriors for their dad. How is that beneficial?
To intercede for people you love, honestly, should be a normal thing for us. And when you are in the spotlight, you're exposed to way more arrows, you're exposed to more eyes, more opinions, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
PKs, now, when you say intercessors, yes, it sounds so strong. That's why we haven't really heard of PKs who are intercessors, like it's where I'm interceding. No. But
Mm-hmm.
I'd say one of the things that brought me to a place where I actually intentionally began praying for my parents some years back is getting to see things from the back end. Because people tend to see the
Mm-hmm.
front. They're looking from the front.
From the
They're just
front.
on the
Yeah.
outside, and they're just seeing from the outside. But having to be the one that comes home and you see your parents sad about something, you see your parents sad about the person or the deacon or deaconess who just left and said all kinds of things about them, and you see the
Yeah.
pain that they carry that they don't show you. I'm like, Lord, give them strength. So I think that we have to learn to not be so selfish and think that our parents have to be the only ones praying for us. We have to pray for one another. We are admonished by the apostle Paul to
Mm-hmm.
pray for others. We have to pray for the brethren and pray. That includes our parents, because sometimes people forget
Mm-hmm.
that just because they are bishops and pastors and reverends, that they too need that spiritual support. And sometimes it comes just from us to stand in the gap. And honestly, one of the easiest ways we can encourage our parents is by supporting their ministry. Sometimes you don't even need to
Mm-hmm.
over pray, because if you're praying and you're minding your business and you're going away, there are things that our physical presence can help. Before they turn, you have this idea, you've included this, you've done this, you've worked on this. My parents are getting older. My dad has gotten older. He has served for years. He has a long history
Mm.
from working back in the days. So there's some things now that even if some people say, "Oh, why don't you guys do this at River of Life?" I'm like, calm down. My father
Calm
has
down.
my father has toiled. Let him rest. Let him rest himself. And this is a very important time when, as a pastor's child, just your support. I'm telling you. My elder brother, one of my elder brothers, is our church administrator. If he wasn't there, I don't know what our parish would have been today. But God used him. So standing in the gap for your parents would would help protect them, whether you believe it or not. It doesn't matter whether that you were younger. When you pray, you're praying to a God that's bigger than all of us. So God is not looking at our
Mm-hmm.
age. God is not saying, "Oh, as a little kid, that prayer might not hold." No, He's looking at the
Won't
sincerity
work.
of our
Mm-hmm.
hearts, and He's saying that we need to
Of your
stand.
heart.
Yes, and so stand in the gap for your parents. Pray for them. Pray. We don't know what's going through their minds. We don't know the people that are attacking them. We don't know the spiritual attacks, the physical attacks, and we don't know the pain that they carry. So definitely, we have to intercede for them.
I like that, the support. I remember one time when we were moved to one of these places where it was a lot for my mom, my late mother. It was a lot for her, and she had her whole life, her whole business, everything, and we just had to move like that.
Hmm.
And I remember one time she got in, she came from her store, she got in, she just came from there directly to church. And when she got in, I was I was ministering through songs. My two elder brothers, one was on the keyboard, one was on the drum, and then one of my cousins was on the bass guitar. And when she looked at us, she started shedding tears.
Hmm.
And I was pushed to ask why. I wanted to know, like, what would make her shed tears. And oh, what she said, I'm happy that you're serving God, all of you. And I feel that sometimes that support, like, you need to look at your parents. Trust me, just look at them when you are serving. Not sometimes they may be quiet about it, but try to look at the non-verbal communication. I've seen it with so many pastors, even with you. Sometimes when you're ministering, I look at the bishop, the way he taps his leg, the way and your mother, your comments when you're ministering, they feel proud. I feel that the support that we give our parents when you're there physically, it's true that there may be some unnecessary expectations that come with that, but when you are there, it makes them proud, and
Yeah.
it gives them, there's this push that, oh, these children are counting on me, so I
Yeah.
dare not give up. I dare not, go to things that will not inspire them.
Mhm.
That just brought me to what I'll call my anchor question for the day, because I'm almost about sick of it. It's true that we have roles to play.
Yeah.
It's true that we have to be supportive. It's true that we have to be submissive. It's true that we have to pray for our parents. It's true that we have to be there. We have to be involved. But should a PK be forced to serve? Should a PK be forced to have same spiritual beliefs? Let's start. Okay, let's start with, if I have same spiritual beliefs as my parents, should I be forced to serve?
No. The simple answer is no. Number one, lack of understanding. And sometimes it's just straight spiritual bullying. When people use spirituality to bully other people into serving
I
or in
know.
a platform that they're not prepared. First of all, the people, the child or the person in subject is not even prepared for. Secondly, your expectations as the leader or whoever you are telling this person that this is who you're supposed to be, sometimes you're not even, just being selfish would make you push somebody into something they're not prepared for. Which again, I think it's very important that if you're going to marry, have children, and you believe you're a pastor, right? It is your spiritual responsibility to understand first what is the goal of this family that God has given me.
Given
And
me. Uh-huh.
Lord, help me to raise these children the way you want them to be raised. And you have to understand that there's a time and season for everything. Unfortunately, there are
Mm-hmm.
many people in positions that are have that carry it as a burden rather a blessing
Mm-hmm.
because they were thrusted into it. Or somehow we are raised with the mindset. And let me just put this out there, okay? I don't know how
Mm-hmm.
anybody will understand it, but okay. For example, there are some pastors' children who've been told, you marry a pastor, especially for girls.
Yeah. Oh.
You marry a pastor.
Oh God.
You're married pastor. You're this is this. So they are turning you, putting you in certain ways, making you this whole thing about, I want you to act and do this for the expectation of that. I'm like, hold on, hold on. This is not the Esther situation. We're not sure who we are going for here. We're not sure what king we are going for here. I've not been told that I'm going to the palace to be prepared for the king. So
Hmm.
you guys are you're doing all of this. So wait, hold on, wait. If you foresee that this is what God is going to bless me with, or how about we stop giving out words of knowledge too early and destroying people? What what about you wait? If God has shown you that
Yeah.
this particular child of yours is going to take over your church, how about you stop telling them that from their infant age? You reap a lot of children from just having a normal childhood experience because you've already thrown so much out there. You can groom people without telling them why you're grooming them.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes when you tell us that we have this calling, we don't always know we do. And so when you
Mm-hmm.
throw it out there, you're to some extent you're going ahead of God to say something that God just wants to prepare us for without necessarily telling us exactly what it is. But God just wants us to be prepared, and at some point the picture will be made known to us.
Mm-hmm.
But when you early on reveal something, it can mess up with how a child grows, and it can make a child feel forced, especially if the child has not yet seen it. Just it's like marriage. A man will come to you, a woman will come to you and tell you, "Oh, the Lord has told me you're my wife, you're my." Even if the Lord has told you, brother, sister, if the Lord has not told that person, the chances are you have destroyed something that should have been there because you exposed it
Yeah.
too fast. You were not smart enough to work your way through. So don't
Mm-hmm.
bully people with what you've seen spiritually. Train them properly. You don't, just because a child will walk does not mean you take them and throw them out and say walk. We are not eagles. That's how eagles train their eaglets. They throw them, and by before they hit the bottom, they come and pick them back up because they're teaching them how to fly. We are
Mm-hmm.
not eagles. We're human beings with feelings. So my advice is no one should feel forced. If you're in a parental position, my prayer is that the Lord will give you wisdom on how to properly groom your child to the point where when
Mm-hmm.
God now says, all right, I want this child to understand what his or her call is, then it comes to the full knowledge of that child.
That's right. That's right. I feel like let's go through some of these comments because there's so many questions. Mary says, I have seen PKs who are atheists. Hmm.
Atheist.
How do the father manage that kind atheist? How do the father manage that kind, and what advice would you give as a PK? Grace, maybe you take that up.
All right. One thing I want to state out here is I'm glad. I just want to state that these my answers are also based on my personal conviction and my personal experience. So take what you can take and leave what you can leave. I'm not making it a rule. Um, in my in my little experience that I've had, I'll say the pastor should go back to the root. Go start from the beginning as though you're knowing your child all over. Get into
Mm-hmm.
conversation with your child. We parents sometimes we are, let me use the word, unchristianized because of mistakes. What that simply means is we're saying you're a Christian, you can't do this. People who are Christians don't do that. You're from a Christian family. No, how about we look at it from a standpoint of personal, like who you are as a person, and just simply biblical truths. I would advise that in a case like that, the pastor should take the time and do the work. Go back to knowing your child. At some point, that child may have given up because of something that you did or did not do. For a pastor's child to say, I'm an atheist, something went wrong within your relationship as a family and your relationship with what you showed forth. If you make a child feel like your ministry is way more important than them, the child will allow you to go ahead and pick your
Mm-hmm.
ministry and they will back off. So that's my advice. Go back to the roots. Get to know your child. Don't just condemn them. How can you say you don't believe in God?
Mm-hmm.
How can you say this? This is in it. No, you don't know your child. For a child to come up and tell you that is simple. You don't know
In
your child.
God.
Yes, put in the work and the time. Spend time with that child, have conversations, go out together, just talk and let them see that example and love of Christ.
Mm-hmm. Mary is also saying, to what extent does PK or is a PK supposed to support their parents' ministry financially? To what extent are PK supposed to go as far as financial support is concerned? And for those PKs whose parents are under missions and are not independent, how do you support your family?
To what extent a PK is supposed to go as when with the word extend in it, I'm assuming that it means there is a certain type of level that is not healthy. So I would that's my understanding based on the word to what extent um is concerned for those people who
Mm-hmm.
don't support.
supposed to
If your
support
parents are
their
on a
family
mission,
financially.
if your parents are under a mission, I would assume the mission also supports them financially. I'm trying to
And
understand.
like,
Do you mean support your parents or support their ministry? Okay.
I
Okay.
think
Yes.
it's um
I think it's something. I think something is wrong with Rudy's network.
yeah.
Sorry, dear.
Oh, but just go ahead. Like, how do we support our parents as pastors' children financially? First of all, if I should say something about that, I feel that whether your father is a pastor or a doctor, or your father is an astronaut as a child, if you want to bless them with money, you should. It shouldn't be because regardless of whatever your father does or your parents do, if you have or you feel like, okay, I have to support them with money, you should go ahead. um it must not necessarily be that they are parents. I don't know what's wrong. I don't know why I'm not on screen. There's something. But can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, so I feel that if regardless of what your parents do as children, if God blesses you and you feel like reaching out to your parents, you should. You should. I don't feel whether they are pastors or they are bachelors or anything.
Oh, something is wrong.
But
Okay, I
I
think.
just think so.
Okay, I think our host network is misbehaving. But Neri, I'd say that nothing should prevent us from supporting them as much as we can. And if they're under a mission, I believe that the missions should support them. I know back in the day, when my dad was a young pastor with the mission, they didn't really support them as much. And even though they supported them, but it wasn't so much that could really sustain a family. But as far as children are concerned, I think it'd be great. It is great for us to support them first as our parents, and then secondly, as the work of God goes forward. I think there was another
Oh,
question. Okay, you're back. Jaffa
all
Lilian
right.
was asking, can a
But
people
let's.
be a believer or an unbeliever? I can't see how. Welcome, Rudy. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you see me now?
No, I can't see you.
But I can hear you. So let's just go on. There was another question you were about answering. I feel like you should give an answer to that.
About what? Which one?
Um, I think that was a question by somebody just Hananiel just said, "PK Grace is your scarf for me." That's a compliment. Um,
Thank you.
Somebody said, so we should be clear if we are talking about PKs who are believers or PKs who are not believers. When we talk here, I feel that um whether you're a believer or not, whether you're a Christian or not, you have to support your parents. What do you think, Grace? I think this was Jaffu Lillian. She was asking that when we're talking about the role of PKs, are we referring to believers or not?
We're referring to both because if you're a PK, you're a PK, whether you're a believer or not. You're from a pastoral family, so we're addressing both. However, I do think there's specific questions that could have been asked or addressed towards unbelieving PKs, just like that of the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. There's this question that just got into my phone right now. You should leave a comment. Let your question be on the comment section. Okay. I know there are some people who cannot really go who are shy to do that. And this question is, I feel like I don't want to be in my father's church
Mm,
anymore. What do I do?
bingo. All right. I totally understand why that question would come in private. All right, because we have been trained. We have been trained to cover up so much that we don't put certain things out there for fear of looking bad or misrepresenting our parents. So I definitely understand why that person's question came in privately. Listen, listen to this, all right? I've had moments when I didn't feel like being at my own parents' church. That's a reality. And anybody that thinks, oh my God, whoa, there are people that can hear that and go, ah, yeah, see, even Bishop Forlu's daughter didn't even want to be part of their church at some point. So there's nothing special about their church. No. It depends on who you are and how you see it. We all have those moments. And let me tell you this, as a matter of fact, as recent as last Sunday, I didn't feel like going to any services. I didn't feel like going to the other. I by the grace of God, I also minister at another place before I minister at my home church, and I did not feel like going to church. And then there was a season I had. It was very strong, and I did not feel
Mm-hmm.
like being there. The thing to do is number one, it sounds like a cliche, but believe you me, it is not a cliche. Pray about it. Pray about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are one of two things here that are happening in the realms of the spirit. Either the devil wants to completely remove you from your source of spiritual blessing that you didn't even know you had until you leave, then you realize you were blessed where you're coming
But
from. Or
yeah.
God is trying to stir the waters and make you uncomfortable with being in the same level, and He wants to move you into a new level. It's one of those two
Mm-hmm.
things, and it is prayer that will help you know which is which. When you pray about it and you say, God, this is how I feel, because our feelings are very gullible, our feelings are unstable, our feelings switch.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. They switch like light switch. To this morning you can feel great. By afternoon you feel depressed. By evening you're angry. By night you're happy. If you pray and acknowledge God, He will direct your path. And you have to be genuine and honest. God is a father, okay? He's a king, he's a friend, he's a lover. There are times when I go to him as a father, and when I go to God as a father, I talk to him. I'm like, sometimes I'm just like, yo, pops, man, I don't know why you're letting me go through this. This is hard.
Like,
But
this is very
pray.
good for me.
Yes. Pray and ask God, say,
Oh.
Lord, this feeling I'm having, if it's not you redirecting me, remove it so that I am not cheated by
Mm-hmm.
Satan to leave a place that I am supposed to stay in. And if God
Mm-hmm.
removes that feeling because the devil wanted to deceive you, now you have to ask God, so Lord, what is it am I supposed to be doing right now? Because sometimes you're
Mm-hmm.
worn out by being in the same place, doing the same thing over and
Thing.
over and over. So if God wants you to stay, it's very okay for you to say, so God, what new thing am I supposed to do to keep my spiritual excitement up being in this house, even though it's my father's
Mm-hmm.
he's the leader of this parish. Number two, if God tells you, if that feeling doesn't go away and you feel that God wants you to move, what you notice is you will start seeing other things you're supposed to do. You start seeing another place you have
Mm-hmm.
to go to, and you start seeing an
Yeah.
assignment you have to accomplish. If you're just wanting to live for more hype, forget it. That's not God. God is not sending you anywhere to
Yeah.
make your
For
flesh happy.
hype. Yeah.
He's not sending you anywhere to make your flesh happy. So after you've asked God that, Lord, if it's not you, take this feeling away, and then rejuvenate my service within this my parents' church so that I'm happy and I know what I'm supposed to do. If that's not it, and then you pray the next prayer and say, Lord, if it's your will, help me to see where you're sending me to and what I need to do. Now, you cannot just pray and say, Lord, help my parents to be okay with it. It's a lie. Your pastoral parents will never be okay with it. They will never
be okay.
Saying that I want to go, I want no. As a matter of fact, they might tell you that the devil is speaking to you. Why? Not because they are not godly people, but simply because there's that level of protectiveness and selfishness that our pastoral parents have. They want to keep you. But if you believe that it is God that's sending you out, you begin to see an assignment you have to do somewhere else, right? And then you'll get peace. You will have peace. God will give you peace. And that peace is what will override any obstruction that you hear, even from your parents. But eventually, they would flow in it. It's not every time your parents will be in agreement before you leave. Sometimes God will tell you, leave. Leave. And then they will catch up later. But you have to make sure you don't leave with anger, because God does not bless rebellion.
That's right. Thank you so much for being on the show, Grace. And I promise people that you wouldn't disappoint, and you did not disappoint. We're so grateful from the entire management of Beliy, myself. We are thankful for having you. Thankful for taking time off your busy schedule to be here. And we're happy that you could make it with us. And to our audience, we want to apologize for the technical glitches. We'll keep getting better. We'll keep making sure that we come back stronger just for you. And in case you haven't subscribed to our Beliy YouTube channel, you haven't followed our Facebook page, and you don't share, or you're not up to date with us, please do so, because we have a lot of content for you. I will leave you on this note. I have left my father's church, and it was not out of rebellion. It was out of God's purpose for my life and out of God's timing. If you're angry about the things that are being done in his ministry, in his church, or in the mission where he belongs to, if it's not God's will for you to leave, bring up those things and be the correction you want to see. But if it's God's will for you to leave, believe me, he is not the author of confusion. They will not just put it to you on a platter of gold for you to leave, but deal with them. In them, if they are spiritual people, they will have their peace and they will follow up. They will catch up later. But let it be God's purpose for you. This is Live of a Preacher's Kid, Live of a PK. My name is Rudy Funwie, and today I was here with Grace Forlu, the amazing, extraordinary Grace Forlu. And I want to tell you that we're coming back to you on Tuesday, and you don't want to miss that episode. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you so much, Grace, for being with us.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate you all, Assemblies. Thank you.
In what heights of love, what depths of peace, when striving ceases and my fears are gone, you're my comforter, my hiding place, and here in your faithful love I stand. What heights of love, what depths of peace, when striving ceases and my fears they're gone. You're my comforter, you're my hiding place. Here in your faithful love I stand. And your love is so wonderful, give me wonderful love. You give me wonderful love. Come on, wherever you are, celebrating the love of Jesus in this one. Come on. So wonderful, your love, so wonderful, so high. I can't get over it, so low. I can't get under it. So wide, I can't get around it. Jesus, you give me wonderful love. You give me wonderful love. Hey. Listen to this one. Say, it never runs out on me. That's the kind of love that has found me. Hey, it never gives up on me. That's the kind of grace that has found me. It never runs out on me. That's the kind of love. Hey, that's the kind of grace. It never runs out on me. It never gives up. That's the kind of grace. So high, I can't get over it. So low, can't get under it. So wide, I can't get around it. Jesus, you give me wonderful love. Hey, you give me wonderful love. You give me wonderful love. You give me wonderful love. Hey, you give me wonderful love. Hey, you give me one. You give me wonderful love. You give me supernatural kind of love. You give me wonderful. You give me, 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 you give me. You give me, you give me, you give me, you give me love. You give me wonderful love. You give me, you give me, you give me love. You give me wonderful love. Hey, you give me wonderful love. Come on, somebody celebrate the love. Hallelujah.